to another episode of Navigating the Matrix with Natural Law Principles. I'm your host, as always, Steven.whybrow, and it's great to have you here on the show again today. A show where strange things happen. I made a promise in last week's show that I was going to load up an episode every Friday. Today's Wednesday, didn't make it on Friday, and there's a reason for it. However, there's some good news. I've got a new laptop computer here, which is working excellently in my favor of conspiring with the natural forces existent in the universe in order to transcend this entire matrix paradigm and do this together with you, if you want to. You see, no one can ever take that free will choice away from you, no matter how much mind control is used upon you. You know, that is the main topic of this video series, Transcending the Matrix. So, there's a lot to get into, and I would say let's head right into the presentation. How are we navigating the crown virus? The number one topic of all topics, isn't it, at these times? Crazy times indeed. And from the perspective of the esoteric arts, maybe, just maybe, this virus, which from the official story, when you analyze the official story, turns out to be a complete and utter hoax. However, from an esoteric perspective, maybe it's time to put on the crown, and put the crown on our head symbolically, and become sovereign. Maybe that's what this whole coronavirus issue is all about. And as I emphasize in this show, there is no news here for you, okay? There's nothing new under the sun, and as viewers of this show are well aware, I use this picture to emphasize repeatedly and in every single episode that I do that this show is not about being distracted by any shadows on the wall, which is news, what's new, who's behind it, what's the narrative, or any narrative. No, this show is completely dedicated to getting the hell out of here, transcending the matrix, and creating the new paradigm, the new earth. And that's what I'm investigating, and that's where I'm putting all my power into, is how we get out of here and how we can do this together. And I can guarantee there's some very weird ideas that have come into my mind over the past few weeks, which I'm going to illuminate you about the idea that I have, and these are very profound. It's all about freedom. These are the topics of discussion that are for time immemorial. The dichotomy between freedom and control. No news, but only that. How do we become free? And that is a journey. And what does it take to be free? We are basically born free. However, we need to find out again what it really takes to manifest freedom. And that's what I invite you to go along the journey together with me into the mystic's perspective. How does the micro and the macro universe connect together? How can we hold the entire universe within our being and between our two hands. As I've said before, instead of manipulation, we can use the knowledge of natural law for the purposes of manifestation. No manipulation, but manifestation. And that comes from the word manos, meaning hand. We have it all in our hands, and we are powerful, powerful beings. And that's what this show is dedicated to do, to look beyond the veil and to move beyond the constraints, the limitation of the control system, and not view the control system as something that we have to fight against and resist the control system. That's only one phase in the heroes or the female version of the word hero, which doesn't come to my mind right now, which is also what this show is all about, to make mistakes and learn from them. I'll look it up. Excuse me, ladies. It's only one part of the hero's journey to resist the system, and we need to complete the full path and transcend the system by integrating the control system within our being and being at peace with it too, as I will explain. We need to make peace with everything that we encounter outside of ourselves, and then we are let free. And all of this is dedicated to connecting the dots in mystic ways, not connecting the dots on who is behind the control system and where all the paths lead in the coronavirus with Bill Gates and WHO and proving all of these things. No, it's connecting the dots on freedom. Freedom and truth from the mystic's perspective. That's what we're doing here. And asking basic questions again. Where are we? It's the basics that I look at in this video series, and I have a feeling that I could do this my entire life, for I can see lots and lots of human beings know a whole lot about a lot of things. However, what I can observe myself is that the basics, the foundational knowledge, is still missing with most beings, and there I include myself too. That's what I went into the video yesterday, which is the first step of initiation is we have to be honest with ourselves. So we're looking at the basic knowledge that's required, because when the basis is right, when the basis on a causal level is right, then everything that comes from that in our experience is going to reflect that. So let's ponder the question, where are we? And I don't mean where are we in the sense of we're in the frequency range of visible light, everything we can see reflects light. Not in that sense, but where are we? I would say we're in the information age right now. That's where we landed as a species with the introduction of the internet. And it's changed a whole lot of things, hasn't it? When we take a step back and look at how things have evolved since the last about 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. We're in the information age, and there is a lot of information coming our way. And that's something that I can observe in the world right now, is information overload. Absolute information overload. Being bombarded with information from all sides. He's behind this, he's behind that, he's behind that formation, and they're creating this, they're creating that, and it's all well and good, and it's important to connect the dots on these issues. I have done this the past 10 years, so I've always went into these subjects. However, an information overload, as we're confronted with right now, also can lead, and probably does lead, into a state of confusion, and that feeds the illusion, as I said in last week's show. It's always the question, what do we make with this information? What do we do with this information? And a lot of people, unfortunately, they stay stuck in the information level of things. They stay only in the first stage of information processing, and that is the input of information. And then they don't process the information, and they don't properly output the information. And that leads to a state of confusion when I'm always only consuming information and not using the information I'm getting in a proper way, like finding out how to build a garden and how to set up a garden. I gather all the information it takes to have my garden, and then I process that information and I use the information that I need in order to use that information to produce a garden. That's a healthy way of use of information. And if we don't get to the output stage and we are only consuming information, then a state of confusion can be the outcome, and we lose sight of our goal. And that's why I regularly state the goal of this show, which is freedom. If we're clear on that, the universe listens to us, and it will confront us with that which is necessary to manifest that outcome. That's why I put out the intention 2.5 years ago, when I found out about the rollout of the 5G network and the control system they were trying to implement with it. I put out the intention that I want to be free. I want to manifest freedom. And the universe listened to me. And I'm just on the path now to make this a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we have to be clear what we want. Is one thing saying no to the control system and removing one's consensus, one's consent to the control system. That's one half of the journey, and we complete the whole journey by saying yes to something we want. And in my case, I say yes to freedom. I say yes to truth. And that can also sometimes be painful, as I have alluded to in my last video, and as I go into also in this video series. There's also lots of emotions coming up on the path to truth and freedom that we don't like. However, those also need to be processed in order to be free. It is what it is. So it's about connecting the dots. There is an information overload that we're facing right now, and what I am aiming to do in this video series is to produce alchemy with the wealth of information that is out there, keeping an open ear and keeping an open mind on all the information I come across. I've done this over the past 10 years and I'll continue to do that. I don't leave anything out. I've also gone into subjects like pedophilia, mind control, and Satanism. I've looked into that, I've studied it. And now I'm at a phase where I'm creating alchemy with all of this information. And the question I'm asking is, what is the information I've been fed with over the past 10 years? What should I do with it? And I have a big plan in front of me. I have a great vision, and I've had a great vision, especially over the past 2 months, and I'm going to share that little secret with you very soon when the time's right. So that's the question I ask myself. How do I distill the essence of all the information I've come across and put that information, that knowledge, to the best of uses? And it's very, very profound and interesting where that leads you. Yeah, that's what I'm about. It's my little secret I wanted to share with you. It's part of the secret, and I like secrets. I like to find out about secrets the same as I like to be surprised. So there you go. Welcome to my journey. It's the journey of truth discovery and the topic of transcending the matrix through the truth discovery journey. Where did it all start for me? I want to get a little bit into my personal journey of truth discovery. And where did it all start for me? Maybe you recognize something here along your journey. 9/11, the trigger. And my truth discovery journey didn't start when it happened. I was, how old? I was 11 years old. I was born in 1990. And I was 11 years old when 9/11 happened, and I had no clue what was going on that day. And I'm pondering on the question if you know where you were at when 9/11 happened. Do you still remember? If you do remember where you were, then that is a sign that it was a trauma-based mind control event that happened there. Because when you had trauma, you can remember that trauma, and it's deeply embedded in the psyche, and the world changed that day. It went straight forward into the direction of a more and more controlled society. There's a meaning in Freemasonry, a saying that says the ends justify the means. So it doesn't matter if it's 9/11, if it's the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Syria. the war in Libya, or the EU financial crisis, Brexit, or the rollout of 5G, or the coronavirus. These are all dots to connect along the greater picture. These are all symptoms of the same cause. And ever since 9/11, and also before that, the world has been moving into a certain direction of complete and utter subjugation and control of the human race, of the human species. And that's the reason why George Orwell and Aldous Huxley could write such prophetic novels. George Orwell, 1984, in 1948 published, and Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, published in 1932. That's why Dr. Richard Day, who was a Rockefeller insider, could predict the internet in 1969. And that's also the reason why David Icke's books over the years, in the 1990s and 2000s, and all the books that he's written have become prophetic, because when you have access to an agenda, you can predict the future. That's as simple as it is. And more when you can see that 5G is being rolled out internationally, and the way all governments across the world, except Sweden and maybe Iceland, of what I've heard, you can see that there is a common theme, and that governments all across the world work in similar ways towards the end goal of the subjugation of the human race. And what I'm producing here with this video series is to share the most important information that I've come across, and use that information for freedom to go along a different path. Because I can see a different reality, a different world being created as I'm speaking these words right now. And there has to be something that intervenes. Otherwise we end up in a control system. And now's the time. When I got into so my trigger event was in 2009. That's 8 years after the 9/11 attacks. And I didn't know at the time that I was getting into something that's called conspiracy theory. I didn't know that at the time, that I was getting into some weird stuff, you know. I didn't know that, but what I do know is that my soul wanted to find out the truth about everything. It started off with 9/11, and then it went into all other topics, and you can probably also relate to that. And wherever you go into, if you go into topics of health and nutrition, you find out about the pharmaceutical companies and Monsanto. Or you go into the direction of the media and Hollywood, and there you see occult connections and secret society networks. And no matter which side you look at, there is a grand conspiracy happening in this world. And it's good to question that. It's healthy, and in my opinion, absolutely fundamental to move forward. So then you find out about the Order of the Illuminati and all the other cross connections. A whole new world opens up for you. A whole new world opened up for me. And that was the trigger of my awakening, finding out that there were people in the background, in the shadows, beyond politicians and presidents and prime ministers that were directing world events. And that's difficult to come to terms with in the beginning, because as soon as you speak your mind, you are labeled. You're not told that you're wrong, but you're told that you're a conspiracy theorist, and that was just conspiracy theory. What this actually means is, to the one saying that to you, I can't go there. I'm still too comfortable in the illusory reality and the belief system I've built up of how I view the world. I'm sorry, my friend, I can't go there. That's why I label you a conspiracy theorist, because I can't go there. Because what happens is that a frame, that's how they call it in the media jargon, framing, a frame is created of what David Icke calls the postage stamp consensus, and inside that frame you're allowed to speak and to discuss topics. But as soon as you question things outside of the frame, and you're questioning the very fundamentals of any topic, then you're labeled a conspiracy theorist. You're a danger to people who are still in a state, in a mental and emotional state of hypnosis. They're not in control of their own thought processes. And that's why we shouldn't be discouraged when people call us a conspiracy theorist, but we can learn to be stronger when they label us by believing in ourselves and believing in the path we've taken towards the truth discovery process. We're on that journey, and nothing can take us from that, and we ourselves can alleviate ourselves from our own suffering by just believing in the process and not be hurt people giving labels to us. They're just afraid of us, and it's okay. They're not really afraid of us, they're afraid of their own power, actually, when you go deeper into it. So that was also a major point in my life where things changed for the better in my life, because I was getting I was when I found out about 5G and the creation of the artificial world that 5G is fundamentally a part of, and not only 5G, but they've got 6G and 7G and whatever. The creation of the artificial world that is at war with the natural world. And I found out about 5G really early, that was in July 2017, and at the time a great man called Max Egan, you might probably know him, had sort of like profound insights at the time, and he found out about 5G and could connect the dots in a very smooth manner. And when I found out about the imminent rollout of 5G, I knew I had to get involved. I knew I had to do something about this. So this was in 2017, and as I've already said, at that time I made the intention to not end up in a technocratic transhumanist society, and I sat down for a 1 hour, or was it 1.5 hours? I can't remember. I sat down for 1 hour and did a meditation, and deeply in my being I anchored that intention of I'm not going to end up in this artificial world. Dear universe, please give everything to me. Let me walk the path, the full path of what it takes, that I play my part, not to end up in a 5G world. And that's what's happened over the past 2.5 years. Some incredible things have happened in my life. And that was my spiritual alarm clock, activating me even further. That's why I often say that we don't have to focus on other people waking up, but it's our own awakening that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And 2017, my awakening went into a deeper level. My spiritual alarm clock went off and said, Steve, you need to get involved on a much deeper level. You need to get involved much, much more. You have a message to share, and share it as soon as possible. Make mistakes. Make yourself vulnerable also. That's what I had this week, for example. Make yourself vulnerable. It's a fundamental part, because you're being honest and you're being open with people. You have nothing to sell to people. What I'm doing is I'll do this out of love. I love doing what I'm doing. And it's important for people to hear this information, in my opinion. And what happened to me this week, for example, was that a interview was released by me, which I did 2 months ago with an Irish guy, and I came across 2 days ago. I came across the comment section of the release of the interview on Facebook. It was, and the reviews were not good. They were like, "What's this guy thinks he's an expert?" Although I never said I was an expert. And I can't follow him. He doesn't really answer the questions of what you, and this and that. And I felt really bad. But I went into that pain. You see, I went deep into that pain, and I let it happen. Just let it happen. Don't have to judge myself, because actually what these people were saying were things that I've observed in myself too, and it's something that I wish to work on, and be more clear in my message. I only teach what I learn, as I keep saying, and we learn from our mistakes, and we can be honest about that and make ourselves vulnerable also. That's what emotional processing is all about, and letting our emotions happen, because one of the fundamental problems we have in our world is that most people are so stuck only in their minds and in their heads. We're such a head-based society. By design, as I go into this video series, by design, we're only kept in our minds in order to not connect with that heart and the emotions that heart-based intelligence is all about, and emotional intelligence, which gives a balance to cognitive intelligence. And it's, as I explained, the root word of the word intelligence comes from intellect and genere, which means to create. Creative intelligence relates to emotional intelligence. But that's a whole nother topic. Yeah, a bit of a dive into something. As I wanted to explain, it's good to make yourself vulnerable and learn from that, not take things personally when you get criticized, but let it make you stronger. That's what we're here to do. And this spiritual alarm clock and my intention to get involved in stopping the rollout of 5G, and my intention to not end up in a technocratic transhumanist society ruled by machines and being enslaved in a control system forever. I thought, now let me take that spiritual alarm bell and let's see what happens, when I let go. And I let go of everything. I let go of my studies, stopped studying mathematics and history at the University of Vienna, and I just let go and see what comes. And what came was that I got to know a wonderful woman. She's a very dear friend of mine called Claire Edwards, and you can see some fantastic material of her when it comes to 5G. And I got to know her, and I translated the international appeal to stop 5G on Earth and in space from English into German. And this, quite funnily enough, is the number one appeal in the entire world. It's been signed by more than 5,000 scientists, more than 3,000 doctors, and it's been absolutely everywhere. It's changed a lot for the better, and that's what I got involved in. That's the law of synchronicity made me become involved in this project. And now I've been holding talks all across Austria, and also me and Claire did a European tour twice last year, and it really was about saving the world. Okay, because most people, they laugh at you. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm saving the world. But when I say I'm saving the world, I'm actually saying, I have to save myself first, And those two are interlinked together, by the very nature of the Hermetic principle of correspondence, where the macrocosmic level of reality is corresponding to the microcosmic level. And what I also did, and that was on the 31st of October last year, 2019, that was one day after the interview I gave with Age of Truth, which you can see on YouTube. I sent off a personally written 16-page notice of liability document to every political representative of the Austrian government and parliament. I sent it to all of them. I had like a list of 6 pages full of email addresses of all the politicians, and I sent to them a notice of liability asking them who's going to be held accountable to the damages caused through 5G. So here's your notice of liability. You've been informed about your liability and your responsibility towards your citizen, and you now can't say that you've not been informed. So that's what I did, and that was one of the steps towards not ending up in a technocratic society. And I've got another project lined up for this year. It's still a little secret, so stay tuned to this channel to find out. To walk the next path, the next step along the path to complete that quite amazing goal that I have, but I know I can do it because I don't want to end up here in the 5G matrix, which the 5G network is making possible. This artificial world that is created, that was portrayed in the Matrix movies, is made possible through 5G, and their intention is to transhumanize us human beings and connect us to artificial intelligence, which I also call technical intelligence. And in that end scenario, something that Elon Musk is working on, that will be the end of the species as we know it. So that's not an option for me. I didn't come here to do that, did I? And I ask you, challenge you, did you come here to be a part of that? Remember why you came here. Then you realize your power. No option to me. It's part of a topic of interest that I've also gone into, the Saturn Moon Matrix, something that I'm going to cover also because it's part of the picture. There's just so much to say. I could do this show every week for the rest of my life and I wouldn't be able to cover everything that comprises natural law and how the Matrix relates to it. The Saturnian Archon Chronos virus matrix. And I'm also going to produce a episode soon about how the Matrix rulers see us, which is also very interesting to understand the psychology of these guys, the faceless ones. Let me tell you that yes, it's a big intention that I put out there into the universe to not end up in a technocratic transhumanist world. But I have the belief in me, and I'm continuously working on the self-love and trusting my own being. And that's what I also put forward to you guys. This has to be a fundamental basis which reverberates out into your environment. Continue working on that one thing. The simplest of solutions are the ones that are just in front of our nose. We need to anchor that. We need to bath in that very profound insight. We have to believe in ourselves. And I fully believe that I can transcend this whole system and no one can stop me. I fully believe that. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I would be wasting my time. And I know I'm a hugely powerful being, the same as you are. We are all hugely powerful beings if we understand the basics of this game we call life. And I have personally had encounters also already in my life with these beings that in the Gnostic tradition are called the Archons. and in South America they call them the flyers, or in Mexico they call them the huatico, and the jinn in the Islamic world and in the Christian world they're called demons. And I personally had personal experiences with these beings that were trying to take me away from the path that I'm on. So I'll go more into those experiences in another episode, so I'll leave it at that for now. And what they are, on the very basis of how they interact with us and how they manipulate us, is they're mind parasites. They are mind parasites. Those thoughts inside your mind, it's very important in my book to question, are those really my thoughts? Because in the Gnostic tradition, they are thought intruders, the archons. They manipulate human beings through thoughts projected into the human mind. Once we can realize that, we can transform it. And that's what I went into in last week's episode of the mind of past experiences. Because through the mind of past experiences and the connecting different past associations and informations, a narrative is created in our own mind, a story that is seemingly believable, because the human being is a storytelling animal. However, they all have one common theme. All of these narratives that are strung together through past experiences, and that is the end result of disempowerment. They keep us down, and then we think we are those thoughts when we're not. But there's a reason why these mind parasites have to keep us disempowered. And we can transcend all of that by realizing that first of all, and then transforming those thoughts through the activation of heart-based intelligence. And what happens is that these archontic beings, they make us misperceive our own world. They keep human beings prisoners of a fake worldview and make them afraid and instill fear in people's minds that are illusions. Like here, this is a painting that looks three-dimensional, but it's actually two-dimensional. The very basis of how we're being manipulated is through the mind and through our perceptions. And that is ever more clear in the situation we see ourselves. We are in the situation we are in right now with the coronavirus, because people are scared to even go out, go outside, I might catch the virus, and they have this mask, and they wear these masks, and it's like fear of what's going to happen next, and this world is not safe. Why do they think like that? Why do they think like that? Because they have been programmed over years, when we can realize that it's a biggie. It's been programmed over years that the world is not safe through the climate change narrative, a narrative of disempowerment. And they've been programmed since this event here to fear the world. It's all connected together, all of it, and it's fear-based mind control. And that's the end result of it. A perception of the world that is not true, because you see, they're all scared of some virus outside and it's gonna kill them, and they choose rather to have security and no life. They lose the entire sense of their life, which is connection. They give it up for a false sense of security, to have 2 meter distance between me and you, to be safe. That's the trick they're playing, whilst when you go out in nature, everything's fine, everything's beautiful. The realm of illusion that we live in is unbelievable, it's unreal. The only thing real is nature and our natural state. We are loving beings, and we have been put into a narrative of disempowerment, and it happens to me also, you see. And I know I can work through those and gain the energy I need to transform disempowerment to empowerment. Misperception of the world, and they make us think a certain way. That's why we need to relearn the basics and think a new way. And that's what I'm trying to do with the project that I've got for this month, for this year, because here in Austria, I know it's not like that everywhere across the world, so wherever you're listening from, this might not be the case here where you live, but where I am, we're in springtime right now, and there's a lot of ideas coming into the mind in springtime. It's the element of fire is active. That's the alchemical cycle of the year, and right now a lot of ideas are coming in, and I know which idea I want to put forward and reach that goal in this year. And again, this will continue to stay a little secret, so you'll tune in for next time. No, I'm kidding. And in implementing that idea, I'm purposefully relearning everything that I've ever learned, because I know they make us think a certain way, and reality is actually different to what we've been told on all levels. And what also happens is that they make us focus in the wrong direction. They steer our attention towards things that they can control. If we were to steer our attention somewhere else, we'd have a much greater impact on things, and that's what I'm doing with this video series. My focus is not on finding out the latest about the coronavirus and who says what. I do look into that, but it's not my prime focus. My prime focus is to find the way out of here. Whilst with most people, also in the alternative media, and this is not a criticism, okay, This is just a realization by me, which I convey to the people. Most people are still distracted by the shadows of the wall. And that's what the archons do. They make us think a certain way. Also, alternatively, and still stay in that cave, wanting to find out more, wanting to find out more. We get out of the cave by doing the basics right. Okay, that's my thinking. And that's where I steer my attention and focus fully on that. Because energy flows where tension goes. And when my attention is focused on freedom, I will be fed all the information by the universe. And then the trick is to use that information to great effect, to manifest freedom and things I would have normally not been able to even imagine were possible. But I got out of the prison of what they want me to think and got out of the misperception and got out of the narrative of disempowerment, and using my disempowerment and emotions like frustration as the humus for new things to be manifest. We need to redirect our attention and really see the bigger picture, because you know something about these archons that they don't want you to know about. Ask yourself the question, for example, why they are implementing a 5G world. Why are they creating a control grid to control you? Why? And you see, you're at the right place here, because my name is Whybrow. So I look at the question why a lot. You know what these archons don't want you to know? I can tell you. They fear humanity. They fear you. Okay? It's that simple. But most people don't want to hear that. If it has to be simple, otherwise it wouldn't work. And when you can see the simplicity of how this whole conspiracy works, you see they control the money supply, and that's why they can control so many different areas of this reality. But people call you a conspiracy theorist and think you're wrong because it can't be that simple. No, it has to be simple, otherwise it wouldn't work. And that's why why I'm sharing the basics and strengthening the understanding of the basics. That's how we move forward. They fear you. They fear humanity. And then they project the fear that they have from us. They project that fear onto us, that we need to fear them. No, they're pathetic. That's why we don't have to fear them. So we really need to look at the whole basics again. So important to have a strong anchor in the basics and understand those and live by those. And that's what living by principles really means. Learn to see anew. Learn how to see, realize that everything connects with everything else. We live in an inverted world. As Michael Elner said, just look at us. Everything is backwards, everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, psychiatrists destroy minds, scientists destroy truth, major media destroys information, religions destroy spirituality, and governments destroy freedom. Everything's upside down in this matrix. Excuse me. They fear us, what's in our heart. Because they are the forces of limitation, the dark occult. They are limited and they have to keep us, as I said in the previous episode, they have to keep us in a smaller box than they are and feed off of our energy because they're mind parasites. And we need to transcend them by not being in fear of them, because that fear is their fear projected onto us. When we can realize that and transform the fear that is within us, and those are based a lot on childhood traumas, that's how we're being played, something that I wish to go into in the next few episodes about psychology and the aspect of the inner child and how we're being played through that. They're the forces of limitation. So, how do you solve an inversion? You flip the whole thing up. You invert the inversion. Upside pentagram, pentagram upright, that's the solution. It's a state of gnosis, and it's simple, however a challenge to live by those principles. Can you see? That's why it's an inverted pentagram in Satanism. And that's why it's called 5G. And my life number is 5. Is that coincidence? I don't think so. That's why I'm involved in what I'm involved in. These are esoteric understandings. It's the upright pentagram where the spirit is above the 4 elements, where we are above the material world that we live in, where it's the intention of our spirit. That intention is stronger than the so-called material world that we experience outside of us, where our willpower, where we express that which we truly are, the force that moves all things from our own center outward. That's what this pentagram means to me. We're above, the spirit is above the 4 elements and in alignment with natural law. It's what Leonardo da Vinci understood. Probably it's just my point of view of this Vitruvian Man painting, and it symbolizes for me a state of gnosis, knowing, an inner knowing where you don't have to read another book, another page, or watch another video. No, it is always there. It's heart-based intelligence. It's a state of knowing. And that's represented as I know this is true. I don't have to think, I know. That's gnosis. Solution. So human race, get off your knees. We need to get off our knees and be the power that's inside of us. Activate that power. The lion sleeps no more. That was also one of the most important parts along my truth discovery journey. And that happened in 2012 when I read my first book from David Icke called Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. The Lion Sleeps No More. We're on a journey back home. We're on a journey back home. Back to our heart. And you know what's interesting? You see? Before this happened, before I saw the lies of the official story of 9/11, before all of that happened in 2009 in my life, I was living a life of illusion. And it was that which woke me up. It was the lies that made me come back home to my heart. So if you look at it from that perspective, and it's a perspective without loathing, without anger for the manipulators, because I have to acknowledge that the forces of limitation serve their purpose. Good on you, mate. They are amazing with their capabilities of manipulation and social engineering and mass psychology and manipulation. Unbelievable. And that's another way of looking at things, that it was the darkness and the lies that made me return home. I don't have to stay attached to that darkness. And that's also something that I can observe with a lot of people, that you stay stuck in the realm of the conspiratorial world. I know lots and lots and lots about this conspiracy that is happening in the world, and I myself had to move forward. I still entertain things and I read books about these subjects of history and have a better understanding of really what went on. It fascinates me, but I do it with a different level of perception now. It's time to go back home and see the true nature of darkness and the true nature of negative forces and forces of limitation, and go full circle with the truth. To come full circle, to complete the picture, to complete the hero's journey as is depicted by Joseph Campbell, and is, by the way, imprinted and the main concept of nearly every Hollywood movie that you see, the hero's journey. And as I've said before, previously, there's two mistakes one can make on the path to truth. It is one, not starting, and two, not going all the way. We need to come full circle and not stay stuck only in the conspiratorial world, but do the basics right. Let in the light of spirituality. Let your heart shine. And that is the great escape, to get out of that prison. It's time human family. And in that school of life, we're told, learn the lesson and you upgrade to the next level. Understand that what you are dealing with is a dark occult priest class. They are forces of limitation, but you don't have to stay stuck with them. Become upright. See the power of yourself that is you. Your greater being already exists, and you connect to it via your heart. School of life that we're in, and the matrix is a prison for your mind. In the matrix there's two sides to a coin, even three, in correspondence with the principle of the Trinity. And the matrix is a prison and a school. Learn the lesson and you upgrade to the next level. And what we're invited to understand is that this matrix control system is just an idea. Because this matrix control system can be summarized as a pyramidically structured, hierarchical, order following construct. When we stop to follow orders and not obey to our own enslavement, that's why I'm so amazed right now. I saw 2 video clips of 2 policemen today that were disobeying the orders that they were given. And one policeman said he went fully with his heart and lost his entire career now because he wouldn't follow orders. That's what changes the world. And this policeman did it. And only one policeman did it, and a second one has already done it now. The matrix control system is based on following orders and coercion. And it's just an idea. We don't have to fight with an idea. We need to understand what it is and create a new idea, which is the basis of my project for this year. What is the matrix? It's a bubble, and it is contained within natural law principles. And that bubble is reflected in our minds, as is one of the principles of natural law, which is the principle of correspondence. The microcosm and the macrocosm reflect each other. So this matrix control system is not separated from the greater universe. It is contained within the greater universe that is based on natural law principles. And it needs to be transcended. And clarity is freedom. This matrix is in your mind, and you can transcend it by applying this knowledge that I'm sharing here in your own life. Wake up, Neo. The matrix is a spiritual womb to keep you asleep, but we ourselves have to decide to wake up, and we can't force that on other people. They have to decide themselves, and the lie will just get more and more ugly, whilst we will be creating a new idea by understanding what the matrix is and not going into conflict with it, but actually creating a new idea. And there'll be no one stopping us, I guarantee. Because when you don't apply pressure to anything outside of you, then no counter pressure can be applied on you. Is that true basic physics? As I say, do the basics right. And we transcend this matrix with the application of the Trinity. And when you look at the definition of God, it's defined as threefold and manifested as a Trinity. Exoterically speaking, a God would be the way religion depicts God, this is anthropomorphizing God, depicting it as sort of like a human being with a large beard. And in the esoteric sense, it's possibly the Trinity process. And this can be symbolized as in the triangle here, where, and I've went into this in my last video, that the basis is the realm of thoughts, which is the male principle, which is then coupled with the realm of emotions, which is the female principle. So that's the sacred masculine realm of thoughts coupled together with the sacred feminine principle of emotions. And those two together complete the Trinity through actions, through behavior, the behavior that we put out into the world. And it can be symbolized, and it is a concept to base your awareness on, the Trinity. You don't have to you don't fail when you're not there yet. It's something to align your consciousness with. When you think and you feel the same way as you behave in the outside world. The first two, the male and the female principle, are energies inside of you. Male, thought, emotion, inside of us, we can feel it. Emotion, energy in motion. And those two interior energies are reflected in an outward expression of these two interior energies. And when those are aligned with each other, then we transcend the entire matrix. I know this is very deep knowledge. I know it's true because of my own personal experience. I don't need to show any proof for that. I think you are entitled to decide for yourself. That's how we transcend the matrix. It's all about solutions here and doing the basics right. And as Bruce Lee apparently said, it's also possible that Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said that, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, which is in German, that knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Exactly. That's the Trinity process, if you can see it. And that's clarity. And the inverted Trinity of the Matrix mindset would be victim, perpetrator, and rescuer bonding. You're a victim of circumstances. No, you're not. That's what all religions are founded upon, and it's the number one Matrix program. As I found out through studying the book from John Lash, Not in His Image. Very profound Gnostic material. So when we are in a state of victimhood, and I myself also still am, in a state of disempowerment, that intrinsically, energetically draws in a state of victimhood, a perpetrator to fulfill that perspective of reality. And in that state of victimhood, we expect someone outside of us to rescue us. And let me tell you what, we don't need rescuing from anyone outside of us. We are the power. Let's get into that process of truth discovery and implement the Trinity. That's why I have the all-seeing eye on my t-shirt, and people, they say, oh, you're part of the Illuminati. No, I can see what's going on. I know the truth. The difficult thing is to implement that truth in my life. Is that a loaded thing to say? So why have they structured a society where you're not allowed to say that you know the truth? Because that means you're transcending the control system and you're transcending the matrix. And I can say that and at the same time also balance that out, balance is everything, by saying, don't know nothing, mate. Just sitting here creating these videos because I like to do that and be with my people and invite them, by the way, to phone call on Skype whenever you've got time, because we need to do this together. It's not enough to know the truth, we have to apply. And if you've got problems with applying, maybe a chat and forming that community would help. That's what I'm doing here right now, forming communities. No time for anything else. I've got no time to wake other people up. I'm not interested. If you think this is total bollocks of what I'm talking, be my guest. It's fine. You don't have to listen, but you're very much invited. And you're part of real humanity. About time we showed our true spirit within our humanity. Nothing can get me down. I can be sad sometimes, like I was yesterday, of being in financial trouble. Well, guess what? Now things have changed. Because I was too stupid to realize some things, you know. That's a whole nother story. So I'm good in that respect. Okay, so we're not victims. This is the matrix mindset and we're getting out of it. That's the awakening. It's happening in each and every single one of us. One mind at a time, and let a soul decide for him or herself if he or she wants to awaken. Shine the light. You're beautiful, powerful, and extraordinary, and you don't have to prove anything to me or to anyone else. You already are divine. You already are a beautiful being. And if you think you're not loved, let me tell you, I love humanity and I love the entirety of humanity. Although there's some very bad people out there, which I don't like, but this species is wonderful, and that's why I love to hold that in my awareness. This picture. I love these children. I love this species. That's why I do what I do, and I will never stop. Shine your light. It's time to shine. So, question to you. Can you accept the truth? It's deep knowledge we're going into here. And it's basic knowledge which you might not have ever been told. When we get the basis right, which are natural law principles applied, we get the whole thing right. Because we learn the lesson and upgrade to the next level of evolution. And it's happening within each and every single one of us. Don't be distracted by what's happening in the outside world. Focus on your inner journey. We can only transform from inside outward. It's the only way. As I've said before, it's time we took our planet back. And that's how we do it. And it takes my participation, it takes your participation, and it probably also takes the cat's participation. Everyone. However, we're only in control of our own life. And speaking truth has the effect of a flame, of a fire that's ignited, and it ignites other beings. That's what's contagious. Take that motivation and observe the thoughts of limitations coming in, telling you all reasons and forming narratives from past experiences to prevent you from realizing that it is us. It is us that is the native species, no matter who's out there. We are the native species of this planet, and we're taking our planet back, and it is game over. Game freaking over. We're that powerful. I know it because otherwise I wouldn't say it, because I don't waste my time. Not interested in that. We are creating the new world. And even if there might be some shadows right now, that sun is always shining. And don't be distracted by the clouds that make you perceive as if there is no sun, as if there is no light at the end of the tunnel. That sun is always there. And that sun is always shining in your heart. I never know how long these presentations take, but they also take me on a journey, and that's why I'm doing that. I'm focusing on getting the basics right. Then I'm sharing that with you. Let's do it together. If you found this video helpful towards your awakening process, then please become a Patreon supporter on Patreon. I would very much thank you for that, and thank you to all the wonderful beings that have supported me over the past few weeks. It's so wonderful to have you support me, and it looked like I was financially ruined because I myself, my Fundament, my website is not done yet, because I'm much more focused on getting that message out. And I have to hold myself accountable for the creation of the website. So if you've liked this message, please subscribe to become a Patreon supporter, support my work, or make a one-time donation via PayPal, via the website that is underneath. And I greatly appreciate you watching this and doing this together with me. So, have a wonderful day. All the best. In Lakesh.